hope you can all hear me clearly. Welcome to this LinkedIn Live session. My name is Rajamannar. I'm the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer of MasterCard, and I'm also the President of MasterCard's healthcare business. I have written a book last February, 2021 February, called Quantum Marketing, which fortunately went on to become a Wall Street Journal bestseller and is being published in 11 languages around the world and won a number of awards. The basic theme of that book was that marketing was entering the fifth paradigm of its evolution. And in this fifth paradigm, there are going to be so many technologies, there is going to be so much of data deluge, and there are going to be significant cultural shifts that we need to rethink and reimagine how we do marketing in this new paradigm. And that new reimagined marketing approach is what I call quantum marketing. And I tried to sort of make it as accessible as possible. And as a part of it, I started a newsletter on LinkedIn called Quantum Marketing Sense. And a further extension of that is when I launched the LinkedIn Live series called Quantum Marketing Sense Live. And so far we had 7 guests. And what I try to do is to invite those folks who are really terrific at the areas that we decide to speak about and have a meaningful and in-depth conversation. And a lot of you have indicated to me which are the topics you would like to be explored further and deeper, and what kind of and which specific individuals you would want to be invited to have these conversations. And today I'm really fortunate to have Marc Mathieu, who has come in to join us for this conversation. Welcome, Marc.
Hello, Raja.
So Marc is, I know Marc for a number of years. He has spent time in various phenomenal companies, and he's an accomplished marketer. But he's a lot more than just a marketer, and he is currently the co-founder and head of the Web3 Studio at Salesforce.com. And they're doing some extraordinary work, which I got to see firsthand. And so when I requested Marc whether he would be willing to dive in with me into Web3, he has kindly agreed. And so he is here, my 8th guest in this series so far. So Marc, again, welcome to you. And to just look at your own career itself, you had been highly successful, both as a marketer and as a business person with phenomenal careers in companies like Coca-Cola. You were there with Unilever, you were there with Samsung. I think that's where we first started interacting. And now you're with Salesforce. Can you just give a glimpse of your career journey and what brought you here and what you're doing right now?
Yes, so first, very happy to be here. Thank you, Raja, for the invitation. And indeed, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but somehow I have the privilege of having been, in my marketing and general management career through the worlds of Web 0, Web 1, Web 2, and now into Web 3. And indeed, I've been in various roles lately as CMO at Samsung. That's when we met before I joined Salesforce. And I've seen a lot of changes, a lot of paradigm shifts. You talk about the fifth one. I've seen amazing, indeed, tectonic shifts in the way marketing has been defined, was defined itself. And I do believe, to your point, that we are at another tectonic moment, given that the internet, which again, I started my career as a marketer pre-internet, and today we are the third iteration, or about to see the third iteration of the internet with Web3, which is fascinating.
It is, indeed it is. Now, one of the key things which I actually felt was, as marketers, we have not been really keeping ourselves up to date with the latest and the greatest. And I did, just out of curiosity, a quick survey amongst some of my peers and some of the other marketing people at various companies. What I found is that less than 10% of the marketers have clarity on what Web3 is even. And when you look up, there are various definitions of Web3. But how do you define Web3, Mark?
So, yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, I felt when I started to dive into Web3, I felt that I was both, early and late. Because once you start to fall into the rabbit hole of Web3, you get really excited and it's kind of endless. The way I tend to think about it is Web1 was the web of read. You could read information, but you couldn't really interact with that information and with other people. And that's when we saw, the Googles of this world, shaping up. Then Web 2 was really the world of read and write, where suddenly you could not only access data, but you could respond, you could connect with one another, mostly through the use of platforms, which is where the ownership of your data resided and your information. And today we're about to see the third iteration, which is read, write, and own. You can still read, you can still write, but now you can own, your data. You can own your information. You can own, digital goods in the internet, and that's the beauty. It's in a way the paradigm shift. It's back almost to the original internet dream. It's giving back power to the users and the creators of the internet, which to me is what makes this revolution so interesting, because we now know so much about what's been great about Web 1 and what's been great about Web 2, but also what have been the flaws of both Web 1 and Web 2. And now hopefully we can, do the best of both worlds.
That's pretty fascinating. So when you look at it, you're talking in terms of read, write, and own. That is what sort of qualifies or categorizes or characterizes what Web3 is. Now, if you look at the components, people talk about cryptocurrencies, people talk about blockchains, people talk about metaverse and augmented reality, virtual reality. Are these just components of Web3? Are they enablers of Web3? Or is the collective of all of them is what you call Web3? How would you look at that?
Yeah, to me, it's all of the above. I mean, what's the fundamental principles of Web3, which is what I believe in, is the fact that the underlying technology of blockchain and smart contract is the paradigm shift. And everything, whether it is indeed metaverse, NFT, decentralized autonomous organization, DAOs, all of this is built on the power of this new technology, with some that have captured people's imaginations, like NFTs or like metaverse. But in reality, what they represent is the ability for people and for brands to engage, in new places, to access new products, for businesses to create new go-to-market, approaches that were not available, previously.
Which is pretty fascinating. But is this Web3 right now purely for the geeks and the nerds? Or is it time that marketers also have to understand what the impact is? Is there any real impact beyond the shiny penny kind of a phenomena? Does it really have any relevance to marketers at this point in time, or is it just too premature?
I think we're exactly at the same time that we were in more or less, March 2000, which is, we used to say that the level of adoption of Web3 technology was similar to where we were in 97, 98 in the age of the internet. So, imagine if marketers knew what they know now about the internet back at the end of the 20th century, how much we could have done. Now, with everything we've heard about the crypto winter and so on, we are now in March 2000, which is post the internet bubble, burst and so on. And what's great is that everything that is basically short-term speculation and hype is in a way gone away. When you talk about this with someone like Gary Vaynerchuk, he says, indeed, that's a great thing because now, you can do the same thing that will happen in the 5 years post the internet bubble burst. That's when most of the big companies were born that really made an impact, a durable impact in the internet. And so I think that it's a perfect time to experiment. I would almost say there is no rush. Some brands have gone very early into Web3, and that was great because that was a sense for them to experiment early, to position themselves as an innovator, especially in crypto native communities. But now is a good time to build the foundations of what's going to be a defining new way of marketing, both from a commerce standpoint as well as from a relationship standpoint, especially for the generation alpha. The generation alpha that's still being born as we speak will be the largest generation ever on Earth, 2.5 billion people that are going to be native to Web3 technologies.
That's an extraordinarily interesting perspective. And, a couple of points come to mind. One is like, for example, at MasterCard, we have been trying to dabble and try to get more from a learning perspective. Things like metaverse or NFTs, and we have got blockchains. We filed for a number of patents in blockchains area. And we have done cryptocurrencies, though it's been more on the stable coin side. And what I found fascinating was the potential is enormous, right? So, for example, when we had the Grammy Awards that we sponsor, we actually had a virtual version of Grammy Awards, and the actual red carpet walk and the selfies in front of the step and repeat, the meet and greet with artists. We could replicate these in the metaverse, but get a substantially higher scale and much more economical than to run the physical show. We ran both. But so the metaverse in this case was hugely augmenting what we could have done only purely in the physical space. So it's pretty fascinating, and it's not like just a simple Web2 experience. It's much more immersive. You're owning certain pieces of action in the form of NFTs, and so it's pretty interesting, and therefore what you are saying resonates with me. But exactly from your role perspective, what exactly are you doing at Salesforce in terms of this Web3?
So Salesforce obviously is the leader in customer relationship management, and the way we think about Web3, it's a new relationship. It is a new relationship that is on the back end, indeed, of all those new, products, NFTs, digital twins, virtual goods, loyalty counts, and new places, virtual worlds, secondary markets, communities, and it's basically how do we build a capability to help our customers bridge from Web 2 into Web 3 and build a capability to manage the relationships that they will have with customers or that customers will have with them in the future, equally in the world of Web 2 and in the world of Web 3, and possibly bridging the two.
Got it. See, if we can just focus on each one of the components, at least we can cover off some of the components in the time we have. So if you start off with NFTs, when I'm talking to any person and trying to discuss about NFT, this is the topic which is the most difficult to get across. That's what I find. Why do you want to own something which somebody else can easily own? And, other than that authentication that you have got, the exact same item is available digitally to somebody else. It becomes quite a challenge to explain. And it took me the longest to get my head around and why people would actually do it. And it's not just about owning these things, but what else can NFTs do, etc. Would you want to shed some light on NFTs per se?
Yeah, the thing that's powerful about the NFT is indeed you can own something that you and only you can own. And depending on the IP that comes with that NFT, that NFT can actually either be a token, a gateway to new experiences or exclusive products. But you could also even totally own the IP of that NFT and create a business, make a movie with the character of your NFT. So what's interesting is that the IP, because the NFT, because it's backed with a smart contract, you have the ability to embed in it certain rules in a way that says, what you can do with that NFT, what you cannot do, and how much ownership you have. And it is true that it seems a little bit odd for a lot of people to think that owning some digital version of something is potentially more valuable than owning a physical version of it. The famous artist Damien Hirst is actually in the middle of an experiment where he created I don't know how many thousand of pieces of physical art and associated them with an NFT, and then forcing the choice for people to either keep the NFT or it will send them the piece of art. And the pieces of art that will not be sent, it will burn publicly, I think, in a few weeks. And so it's forcing people to make the choice. And so far, I think it's about 50-50. So I think the jury is still out. Some people say, an artist like Damien Hirst, I'd rather own the piece of art. But other people say, well, I can do so much with that exclusive ownership of the digital version that again, before anybody else could right-click and copy and put it on their profile picture, except that in today's world, people know better, and they know, what you really own, and then what you own gives you access to a community. And that to me is the real power of NFTs, the real power of Web3, is this idea of community. That's for me the game changer in marketing, because we've been, thinking about marketing through the paradigm of audiences and scale. And the power is that today, scale can only be reached, or a better way to reach scale is through micro communities of people who, again, are co-owners of a part of your brand, who feel that they can co-own, they can co-create, they can co-benefit, from your brand by participating to the agenda of your brand. They become great, co-innovator. They can help you create your innovation roadmap. They can also, in the smart contract, you can define, some split of revenue so that you can actually collaborate with other people and still have a benefit of, your creation, your collaboration, as opposed to you're just an audience, or worse, you're just a consumer whose mission in life has been defined by brands as to consume.
Yeah, if you were to look at different aspects of NFT, one, if you look at it like a CryptoPunk, and you're spending $260 million on that, I still struggle with the concept. But if you look at other applications of NFTs, whether it is if you're in the gig economy, you're a creator, for you to be able, if you're creating a song, for example, and you can access it only through NFT rights, then somebody plays, and I know exactly somebody has actually bought my song, I get my revenue, and if that person sold it further, the smart contract details can be such that I can get revenue on further resale. I think for the gig economy or the creator economy, the possibilities are incredible, and the opportunities for disintermediating is going to be huge. That's one part of it. The second one also, I was reading about the soul-bound tokens. I was pretty fascinated what these soul-bound tokens are. And as weird as the name might sound, it seemed to be pretty terrific, which is if I want to get a driver's license, and I want that particular token to be uniquely linked only to me, and it cannot be traded further. So it becomes immutable. I think it doesn't change, in other words, certificate that is uniquely associated with me. If I look at like a driver's license, or if I'm graduating from a college, the certificate, the degree certificate I get, or the driver's license I get after passing the exams, should uniquely belong to me. And that enforceability is brilliant through the NFT kind of a route. And there are so many other applications which are there for this. And if you look at it beyond just trading some kind of a digital art, there are artificial shortages created for that, and the interest is predominantly speculative. I think you really see the real possibilities of what NFT can bring about. But shifting gears to metaverse. Today, metaverse is like, got these big devices on the head, and companies like Facebook have bet the farm, and they have even renamed themselves as Meta. And when I look at that, there are some killer applications, but by and large, still, it feels a little unwieldy. And as immersive as it is, it seems to have serious limitations. What's your prognosis on metaverse?
Yeah, so I'm a huge believer in the fact that it's the fusion of physical and digital worlds that are interesting, and also that to me the metaverse is more a place than a VR experience. So the idea that actually there is a place where you can interact with other people, with other digital versions of people, of products. Somebody said anything that can be tokenized will be tokenized. I think that we will see, metaverses, and again, today there is not much interoperability within metaverses or from one to another. But once you start to see multiple metaverses with proper interoperability, you'll see actually the ability of people, experiencing themselves, their identity, their ownership, their relationships through different metaverses in different way. This idea that somehow what we own, this T-shirt, this piece of sculpture, defines basically who we are, and that's part of our communication, about our identity with others. Today has been in a way limited by the few ways we can actually experiment with our own identity and show up in the real world, and even in a way in the digital world. In metaverses, I think that people will actually be able, again, especially those Gen Alpha, those metaverse and Web3 native generations, will be able to, in a way which is, they will have much more control of their identities. They will be able to explore and experiment different facets, and I think in such a way discover more about who they truly are and who they can be in the physical world as well as in the digital world. So I really believe in that bridge between physical and digital, and then digital back into physical. But I do believe that it's an opportunity for people to create new experiences, new relationships that will help them, define or answer this fundamental question that we all, strive about, which is, who am I? Who can I be? And how do I define myself? How do I, develop my own level of happiness and fulfillment by exploring my identities? And I think that that's where this idea of, new relationships, opening up new identities is going to be really something quite extraordinary for marketers to explore in the years to come. In a way, one thing that I find fascinating is that it's almost flipping marketing on its head. I think that so far we've been thinking about consumers as an audience, and us trying to build a relationship with this audience. In a way, today, I think that we, the brands, are becoming the audience, and the customers are the ones that are going to start to say, this is me, this is who I am, this is how I live, this is what I want to do. And brands listen to me, listen to what I'm telling you, listen to what my needs are. And this idea of flipping the marketing on its head, thanks to this new empowered internet where the consumer is the owner is fascinating.
In fact, I think, you literally summed up what I tried to say in my book in more than 200 pages very effectively, which is that marketing needs to be really stood up on its head with all these new technologies and all the new developments which are happening. And when I look at just the metaverse alone, Mark, the experimentation we did, like I mentioned about with Grammy Awards, was fascinating. We created Pride Plaza in Decentraland. We also had an equivalent in Horizon Worlds. We did something in Roblox. Now, each one of these platforms we are looking, and it's all disconnected right now, but when the interconnectivity happens, and there is a seamless movement from one platform to another platform for the consumers and for the brands, it's going to be terrific. The second thing is the immersivity or immersive nature of the entire metaverse. I think that's a huge positive, particularly when you're looking at, for example, want to view some, jungle in some part of the world, in Amazon or wherever, or you're looking at a museum, or you're watching a concert right from your home, but a highly immersive, real time. That's something which is going to be fantastic. It can have impact on live events and so on and so forth. And the other thing is from a gamification. I think gamification is probably the initial killer app, whether it is pure gaming for gaming or it is gamification, for example, of health. Now, if you look at apps like this Lightsaber, you don't realize how much of effort you're putting in that, and you get a fantastic workout and you start sweating when you're playing that game, but it doesn't feel like you're exercising. And from a healthcare perspective, that's a brilliant application. That's just an example of the several billion applications that are happening. And I heard about virtual dissections of human bodies, which are done in the metaverse to make the doctors familiar, the trainees who are training to be doctors and surgeons to be familiar with the. So the applications are going all over the place, and I think it's pretty exciting. Just to switch gears a little bit, your views on blockchain.
Well, again, I feel it is, as we said, the fundamental, technology that that somehow is at the basis of this revolution of the internet. So the fact that you can actually, embed a smart contract, that you can create something which, in a way, is non-mutable. Where you don't need the trust of a third party, especially in this world where we've seen an erosion of trust, is to me why I have so much faith in Web3, because it comes at a moment in time where indeed people want to trust one another and trust themselves more than they are ready to trust a lot of third parties, including brands. And so this idea that finally there is a technology that puts the trust back in my hands, in a way, is something which I find fascinating again.
It's such a cool technology. On the one hand, you're absolutely right. It is inducing trust into what you're getting or what you're holding or what you're possessing, which is terrific. The second thing also, the aspect of disintermediation, where you do no longer have central authority or a series of central authorities. Like if I think of sending money to my cousin, say in India, what the current system is of money transfer from here to there versus what it is and how instantaneous, efficient, cost efficient as well it is from moving money from here to there. Those kind of apps are terrific. And in our own space, which is for advertising, the whole value chain of advertising is filled with intermediaries after intermediaries after intermediaries, each one taking their own cut. And one of the WFA, which is World Federation of Advertisers, their studies have shown that anywhere between 40 to 60% of the money that we as advertisers intend to spend on media actually goes to these intermediaries and not to the publisher. And also there is lack of transparency. I think blockchain will solve for that in a brilliant way, both from a point of disintermediation, bringing in a level of trust and transparency. And lastly, I think for producers of various goods, it can be a low end, something like vegetables. You need to track the vegetables from the farm all the way to the shelf, or it is to establish the provenance. or the origin of, say, a luxury handbag. I think the applications are so many in this space. This is one technology as well I'm so excited about. And this is probably the closest in terms of being realized at a mega scale than the other components of Web3, which are all evolving pretty rapidly. But that brings me to the last point I wanted to touch upon as it pertains to Web3, which is cryptocurrencies. Your views and take on cryptocurrencies.
Well, again, I think that there was a lot of hype and early wins in cryptocurrencies, and I think that we had at an interesting moment in time where again we needed that crypto winter in order to take away all of that short-termism. It's fascinating here again when you ask, in terms of cryptocurrencies or DeFi assets, you ask, you take a generational lens on ownership, depending on on age. Basically, you have some people who would put less than 5 or 10% of their assets in DeFi, so crypto-related DeFi, assets, and those will tend to be maybe more people like you and I. But if you talk with our children, the proportion will probably be the opposite. They will totally distrust the current financial tools, and they will completely rely more on those technologies, despite the still very heavy volatility, which of course is one of the things that crypto still unfortunately are going through that early phase of innovation and adoption. But eventually I have no fear that we're all going to see a massive adoption of crypto, and that it's going to become one of the many ways that we will actually transact and also store value.
Yeah, in fact, 2 points that come to my mind. One is, at this stage, the volatility is hugely in the free-floating cryptocurrencies as opposed to the stable coins. And, I think both of them will coexist for different purposes. But I think the stable coins will bring the level of stability, even as the name suggests, in terms of their intrinsic value, given the peg and the support that they have got to retain the value of those currencies. The second thing, interestingly, I saw one recent application. One of the persons I know, used to be my colleague here at MasterCard. He would get his salary in one of the South American countries. The moment he gets that currency, because in the local currency, because of the volatility of the local currency there, he would immediately convert it to US digital currency. And then he will retain value in that, and then quickly convert that into US dollars. And his money is safe and is preserving value. And I haven't seen that application before. And when I saw it with one of my own colleagues, I said, wow, this is fantastic. And once you have got that enablement, the tool can be used for good or bad. There are always going to be bad actors doing bad things, because it can give you a level of anonymity. And that anonymity can lead to bad actions because human behavior is such. But overall, I think there will be a very positive influence, as I see, with these new kinds of payment value storage vehicles or payment vehicles, which I think is going to be fantastic. Marc, first, I wanted to mention also, before going to the last part of the conversation I wanted to have with you is, most of the times in the technology field, when the new technologies were coming, it is the non-marketers who have been taking the lead. And I keep saying, from the third paradigm onwards, which is late 1990s, marketers have lost the plot. And somebody else has taken the agenda from the Silicon Valley or from the technology field, call it whatever. And then we are sort of on the receiving end. So it was particularly delightful for me that you have actually jumped in. A career marketer and a career general manager has jumped in and really creating a future platform and enablement for Web3. at Salesforce.com, and I'm really waiting with bated breath to see how wildly successful you will be, and you'll have all our support and encouragement and partnership in every which way. And I guess it's also delightful that we have just partnered and announced the launch of NFTs for the city of Miami, partnering with Salesforce.com, MasterCard, and Time Magazine. So it is going to be a very interesting experiment and a great template for cities as to how they can raise funds and monetize stuff. But the question and the last part of the conversation that I wanted to have was, what is your advice to marketers? Remember, I mentioned at the beginning of the conversation that when I spoke with a number of marketers, less than 10% of the folks have seriously an understanding of Web3. And that, putting it the other way around, 90% are sort of not fully knowledgeable. And that is scary. And that's a recipe for somebody else, again, taking the agenda and running away with it, and we are at the receiving end. What is your advice to marketers?
Yeah, so there is one advice that for me has never changed, but and then another one which is more specific to this moment in time. The one that's never changed, I do believe that, marketers have the privilege, and every privilege needs to be used, wisely, to be the ones who understand best, at least that's their job, the customers, people. And I think that as a result, being people-centric, understanding how you can serve people, not just consumers, not just customers, but human beings, is one of the eternal advice. I always say, marketers have this huge opportunity to be human beings, before they are marketers, and think about the people they serve with that human lens. On Web3 specifically, it's interesting because it's such a revolution with all the new technologies we've discussed, that the advice, I'm giving them is experiment. Don't copy paste. Don't do the same thing as your neighbor. This is a great time if you are brave enough to invent, to imagine totally new ways of, building relationship, of building commerce, building IP, with your brand. But in order to do that, you need to understand that technology. If you don't understand it, how do you, understand, for instance, mutants? How do you, create derivative? How do you think about ways to build new loyalty models? New revenue share, royalty splits with your customer base and so on. So it's one of those times I used to say to marketers, learn coding. I think that this is a time when, if you're serious about it, and that's certainly what I did, you need to get into the rabbit hole and start, pulling, the thread and try to understand enough, not to, become an expert, but at least to understand how you can create something totally novel that leverages that technology, again, to empower your user, to give power, to give ownership, to give true benefit, to create true utility for the people you serve.
So well put, and something which I have as well been propounding for a while, which is, you need to acquire knowledge, not to become an expert, but at least to understand and grasp what the possibilities are. And if somebody is throwing some jargon at you, you're able to cut through it and understand what they are saying, whether they are saying is substantial or what they are saying is fluff. And, and learning, there is no substitute to learning, and you cannot delegate knowledge. And to acquire knowledge, you have to invest time, you have to invest effort. In my own case, Mark, I have been reaching out to people like yourself to try and learn from them, to get shamelessly ask them, hey, I'm not aware of this whole thing. Can you teach me? And people in their goodness are always willing to help, whether it is professors at colleges or whether it is professionals who are working in the industry. I have gone through some Coursera courses, and actually right now as we speak, I'm doing a module for an online program with Wharton School of Management. And it's 7 modules, and I'm already on the 5th module. And I can tell you the amount that I have learned in this, I can, I feel extremely comfortable, and I can really visualize what the possibilities could be, at least in the context of my business, and also to be able to challenge ourselves to say, how can we really get a leg up in the marketplace over anybody else out there? And so it's truly delightful from that point of view. And the last one I would say is that—
And to your point on Web3 specifically, that community, everybody is learning together. So the community is really welcoming and willing to share, which is
so true.
Very often in the case of new technologies, everybody is a pioneer, everybody is experimenting. So people are, really eager to share and learn.
They are absolutely true. And the last thing I would say in the context of Web3 particularly, I read up a lot about it, but I started really grasping and internalizing the aspects only when I was trying to play with it. So I went and minted NFT. And once it was that, I put it on the market and somebody bought it. And going through the whole process itself has actually made the whole concept so clear. And I think that experiential, hands-on experience is very critical, and it's an experiential learning that one has to go through. But this is fantastic, Mark. Just to switch angle only onto one small last point is, from your own perspective, what do you do outside of work? I know you spend some of your time in exotic places in France, and then you're based out in New York, and you're traveling around the world. What are you passionate about, and what are some of your interests at a personal level?
So one of the things I try to continue to do, and certainly traveling helps, is I love theater. I love immersive theater. I love the storytelling aspect of theater. I love the imagination. I feel that, it's maybe one of the few places where I feel, I've seen firsthand evolution of what I would call old-style theater, where you are a pure audience, to where you can actually really be involved in the story to the point of, discovering, again, yourself and discovering who you can be. So I find theater in the power of imagination and creativity that it has helped me a lot to continue to be curious, continue to be imaginative, to be creative in my career. That's one. And I'm also, the best I can, trying to stay on a mindfulness journey. I was lucky a few years ago to go on a retreat in India to a large event that was hosted by the Dalai Lama, and I always feel that it's something quite humbling to go back to being mindful about the world we live in, about the privileges we have, and that somehow this is not going to last forever, or it will, but that impermanence, is one of the things that's here, that brings us all to the same level. So that's maybe where I would like to close, I guess. I think that being all conscious about the role we can play and our place in the world is probably a good lesson of life, both as individuals, but again, as marketers.
That's really profound and very meaningful, and also what hit the point home. Or the point that hit home for me was also when you said that marketing, to be in marketing is a privilege, because you have the wherewithal, you have the creativity, you have the network to make things happen and truly make a difference, which is phenomenal. And I think we also share two common things, I would say, of the two that you have said. One is I meditate every day as well for 30 minutes a day. And I used to actually, during my student days, I used to be in plays on stage. So we didn't call it theater because that was something for the professionals, but we are the rookies and the amateurs who would sort of have fun on the stage, and there'd be in college plays and in the community plays. So I just wanted to mention that. But Mark, as usual, always an absolute pleasure chatting with you, and look forward to seeing you again very soon. And to the audience, thank you so much for staying with us. Hope you found it of value. I'd love to get your feedback, so please share your feedback. and also any suggestions in terms of how I can improve this, because at the end of the day, it's all about you and what is of value to you. And if you think that something should be included, something should not be included, or some specific topics you want me to cover, specific individuals you want me to invite, I'll absolutely take them on board. But thank you so much. Please stay well, be safe, and I look forward to seeing you again next month. Thank you very much. And again, Mark, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.